appreciate particularly the witnesses from Saskatchewan for being here today. I'm from Saskatchewan, lived all my life in Saskatchewan, and my late husband was actually from Estevan, and I lived there a few years after law school. So I'm certainly keenly aware of the challenging circumstances that being as dependent on resource revenue provides, and then I'm really glad that today we've had a chance to see directly from people who are actually affected by what I have long been calling the unjust transition that this government is employing, and because they need to see this. This is stark reality here, and thank you for bringing it forward so forcefully. And I hope that more people will see this, and not just Saskatchewan media will cover this story, but I hope national media will look at this. So to the three witnesses that we have here in person from Saskatchewan, Mr. Martin, Mr. Eger, and Mr. Wallace, maybe you could, I have a few questions here for you, but maybe each of you could take one of them. So my first question is, what do you think the federal government can do to ensure that rural communities remain prosperous throughout this unjust transition?
Again, through thoughtful policy development. Rural communities are completely different than urban communities. We have a much more challenges. For instance, if you live 60 minutes away from Tim Hortons, you're not rural. So we have a lot of challenges that way. So we actually have a very skilled and experienced workforce that we're in jeopardy of losing. So I think what we need to do is, or the federal government needs to do, is sort of focus on economic activities around bringing investment to the region. So we see a $13 billion investment in Volkswagen in a non-coal transition community. Why aren't they putting funding into bringing investments into coal transition communities like every other coal transition community in the world has done? So that's a very easy one. And again, it's not reinventing anything. We just have to look to all the different jurisdictions all over the world that are going through coal transition. Poland has a great program. Germany is the gold standard. The UK has done very well. And the US, of course, with their Inflation Reduction Act, where they're actually targeting tax credits for companies that move to coal transition regions. And these are very simple things that the federal government can do, and they can happen quite quickly. We've been going through this since 2016. There's a lot of uncertainty, and I know the mayor's, he's very emotional about this because this is his community. And we're on the ground. We see these people every day. They're wondering, how they're going to sell their houses. Kids in schools are going, oh, am I going to have to leave and I'm going to lose my friends? It's just really, really sad what's going on.
Absolutely. It's actually heartbreaking. And to Mayor Martin, thank you for expressing that emotion here today, because I think it's through something like that people will actually realize what's going on. So what would you like to know, Mayor Martin, or what do you think that the federal government does not understand, and what would you like to tell them by your testimony today about the ability of your rural community to participate in a green economy?
Well, that, and when you look at the proposed legislation, it says to help workers move to new jobs. Okay, that's looked at through a lens of whoever wrote the legislation of larger communities.
Yeah.
I can let's use here, for example. I'm not picking on Ontario, Southern Ontario. Take a compass and put a 100-mile radius around your house. I can probably find you a dozen jobs within that 100-mile radius. Mm-hmm. You put a 100-mile radius around us.
Exactly, yeah.
It says, shit, sorry.
It's okay.
You're moving workers in our community. Put an R and an E in front.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we see that sometimes when we see the federal government come up with legislation and say that, oh, everything is rural that's outside in Saskatchewan, Regina and Saskatoon. Get real. That's just ridiculous definition.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're
come out
totally
and walk
right.
a mile in our shoes. Come on out.
Absolutely, yeah.
Come and see what we're up against every day.
That's right. And to Mr. Eger, we will eventually prepare a report on this issue and make recommendations to the federal government. If you had one key recommendation on behalf of rural communities that we should make to the government, what would it be?
One? I mean, I guess listen to the people that are out there, and you know, that's like Mayor Martin said. Those people that we have to deal with those people every day. They're our families, our friends, and people we've known our whole lives. For my case, I guess. Same, like they said. There's people in my community that are paying 2 mortgages because they can't sell their house in Coronach, and they had to take a job because they're scared of being stuck in Coronach and not being able to bid out. Because if they're a Sask Power person, they're trying to stay. They don't have enough years in to retire. But it's pretty tough when you're paying 2 mortgages, and now you've moved to Saskatoon, and people younger than me are moving out, taking their kids. We're already losing about 7 to 10% a year of people trying to get out, and they're scared. We're scared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I come from a generation where people my age that I went to university and law school with, my husband and I were rarities that we actually stayed in Saskatchewan, because that was at a time when we had an NDP government that everyone was leaving Saskatchewan, everyone our age. So we were rarities, but then it rejuvenated, really, and things were getting much better. And a lot of people were staying, and you probably even maybe saw a time where there was some population increase in your communities, but now it's just, well, we have to change something, because that cannot happen. And just in case anyone thinks that this is a rarity of what you're explaining here, no, this is very much an illustrative situation, but it is certainly not a rarity for the rural communities that I'm familiar with in Saskatchewan and other places in Canada. Thank you.
Thank you so much.